Greetings all. Welcome to September. I have a sneaky suspicion that something phenomenal is getting ready to happen for us. Yes, 9 is the number of birthing. And so I believe that things are getting ready to not only come forth all of a sudden, but I think those things that have been in our possession, those things that have been in the works, God is getting ready to shift some things on our behalf. And so I'm excited about what's getting ready to happen. In this month, I'm going to be sharing some very important things that I believe will be life-changing and life-altering for many. I do want to appreciate all of you who share the videos, who post and tell me you like what's being said. It's important that we get your feedback because that's how we know that we're actually impacting people and not just presenting things just to waste time. We want to make sure that everything that we do it with the purpose in mind. I want to go over something today, and the Lord dropped some things in my spirit. Actually today, dropped some things in my spirit for me to share with you, and so I want to lift those up, and again, hopefully they'll be a blessing to you and yours. I was in Bible study at our second location, the Heart of Worship Connecting Center, and in that session we were talking about quitting, or the quest of quitting, or why people quit, especially why they quit ministries, why they quit teams, things of that nature. And I want to lift that up today because some of you might be in a place to where you feel like quitting. You're not sure if you should remain. You're not sure if you should stay where you are or with who you're staying with, and so, or who you're in relationship with. And so I'm going to lift up some things to help you to understand that one of the greatest pictures of this quitting thing is in the life of Peter. In the second book I wrote, Sonship, the Frustration of the Follower. Chapter 5, I deal with the quest of quitting. Bishop Abraham Ayama helped me write that particular chapter. We were talking about Peter and how Peter just did not go from call to quit. There were some things that happened in the process. The Bible says while Jesus was in Gethsemane praying, the Bible said that Peter missed the moment of prayer because he was asleep. So firstly, he was a devotionless disciple. And I want to challenge all of you, when you're connected to somebody who is evolving or who's shifting, you have to make sure that as they are getting downloads from God, you have to make sure that you're attentive in that moment, not just because you're next to them, but because you can sense that something is turning and something is changing. The amazing thing is, while Jesus is talking in the garden, he's praying, Father, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. He is praying that prayer. The Bible says he prays it 3 times, and it's as if great drops of blood is falling from his eyes because he's in tears. And his disciple, who represents the future of the church, also his inner circle, they're asleep. There are many of you, you're changing, and you have to challenge those people around you to not be asleep while God is downloading things to you, because you can miss your moment because you missed one moment. Let me say that again. You can miss your moment because you missed one moment. The Bible says Jesus finally leaves and he rebukes Peter. He asked him, he said, why can't you wait with me for just 1 hour? He went, and the Bible says Judas betrayed him, and Judas kissed him. The Bible says Jesus called him friend. Now it's amazing because as the mob is trying to draw Jesus out, the Bible says that Peter grabbed his sword and he actually cut a man's ear off. It's amazing because Peter thought that Judas and the mob was the enemy, but Peter actually became the enemy because he was trying to keep Jesus from what Jesus was destined for. He missed the shift. He had protected him all the while, but now you're protecting him from purpose. And whenever you try to protect your leader from that purpose place, whether that's that storm, because every day is not going to be wonderful, some things you cannot stop. Some things that if you get in your flesh, you will hinder the call of God on your particular leader's life. So he's devotionless. And the Bible says he cuts the man's ear off. Jesus takes the man's ear, put it back on his head, because that law said that in order, if you would hurt an official or lay hands on an official, the history reveals that you would immediately be put to death at the place of that particular injury. The amazing thing is, Jesus was not supposed to die in an alley. He was supposed to die on Calvary. And so Peter was going to cause Jesus purpose because he was going to cause him to die in the wrong place. He was devotionless. And then because of this, the Bible says after Jesus puts the man's ear up and then rebukes him and says, he that liveth by the sword will die by the sword. Then the Bible says Peter became distant. He follows afar off. Many of you have noticed, and maybe you haven't noticed, that you become distant. You used to call, you used to respond, you used to reach out, you used to check on the person that you're connected to, you used to communicate when it had nothing to do with nothing. But now you're few and far between. You become distant. Devotionless leads to distance. But then distance led to denying. The Bible says he was warming himself by a fire. Young girl said, hey, ain't you connected to Jesus? Don't you go to that church? Ain't you connected to that man or that woman of God? And Peter said, no, that's not me. 3 times this particular thing's happened. And the Bible says the cock began to crow. And when it began to crow, Peter remembered that the Lord told him that this was going to happen. Many of you are at a place to where you don't quit all of a sudden. You didn't just feel like quitting all of a sudden. Maybe it's not because the connection was contaminated. Maybe you were devotionless. While your leader was shifting, getting downloads, you were asleep during the hour of prayer. Then you became distant. You have noticed that things have shifted, or you haven't noticed. I want to challenge you. Bring that distance. Put it to a halt. Get things back connected. Because after you become devotionless, after you become distant, the next thing is you become denied. The very thing that has fed you is the thing that you act like you have no association with. I want to challenge you. Get back where you need to be to make sure that that connection stays pure and that God gets you where he needs to get you. And then some of you have got to a point to where God is leading you to do a particular thing or challenge you to move to a particular place. Let there be found no blood in the transition, but do things the way God has intended. The Quest of Quitting is a phenomenal chapter in the book. Those of you that don't have the book, get it. I promise you, it'll bless your life. This is the birthing month. So while the enemy is noticing what God is doing, he's not just standing back taking watch. He is fighting against those things that God has his hand on. Be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. And I'll meet you back next Monday.